You got the Bhagavad Gita?
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we'll chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verses 1 to 10.
Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetrajñameva cha etadveditumicchami jnanam jneyam cha keshava Shri Bhagavanuvacha idam shariram kaunteya kshetramityabhidhiyate etadyo vetti tam prahuhu kshetrajña iti tadvidaha kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajñayor jnanam yattajnanam matam mama tatshetram yaccha yadrikcha yadvikari yatascha yat sacha yo yat prabhavascha tatsamasena me shrinu ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतम् छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः महाभूतान्यहङ्कारः बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्चचेन्द्रियगोचराः इच्छा द्वेषः सुखं दुःखं सङ्घातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम् अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधिः दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु
So greetings from Lord, everyone. Vidushi and Mesh are also here. And we are soon go. Today's verses, which we are going to do, are very simple, but deceptively simple. There's nothing to it. I'm reading it out to you. The great elements, ego, intellect, and also the unmanifest, the 10 senses and the one mind, and the 5 objects of the senses. Is explaining, as you know, he said every one of us is made up of the Kshetra and Kshetrajna. He has explained to us, he has said, Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi. I am everybody. In every Kshetra, I am the same. Now he's saying, what are those various Kshetras? What does it have? Okay, so what does it have? The great elements. You're already aware of that. The Panchabhutas, right? Everybody knows that. Even people who don't come to class know that. Panchabhutas. You ask any random person, what are the 5 elements in Indian philosophy? They'll probably tell you. Right? You tell, please. Let's see. Here also everybody knows, right? First one is?
Earth.
Come on, anyone.
Earth.
What, Kalyan? I can hear you.
Earth.
Earth. Second one, someone else. Anyone else? Second one. Hurry, yaar, hurry up. Deep Raj, water. Very good. Third one. Third one.
Air.
Na.
Fire.
Fire. Very good. Now Bhavna. Fourth one.
Air.
Air. And fifth one.
Space.
See,
Ether.
everybody knows the 5 elements. No big deal. So he's not even bothered to tell us what they are. These are 5 elements. Everybody in this country knows that. Then ego. Do you people know that you have an ego? Yes, okay. So that's it. Simple. Everybody. Ego. What is the ego? Individuality. Everybody has an individuality. Everybody is of a certain type, and whatever type they are, they know that I am this type. This is my type. And they'll say also, I am like this. Okay. So everyone has an ego. Has he told you anything you don't know so far? You know it all. Then you have an intellect. I believe everybody in this class is aware that they possess an intellect. Right? Then the manifest, the unmanifest. What is the unmanifest? Obviously. What is unmanifest in us?
Vasanas.
Vasanas. The 10 senses. Everyone knows the 10 senses? Right. What are they?
Perception and action.
Okay, very good. 5 senses of perception, 5 senses of action. What are the 5 senses of perception?
Smell.
Okay, start.
Taste.
Correct, very good. Let's start in order, always go in order.
Touch.
Eyes, ears,
Nose.
nose, yes.
Tongue.
Skin, very good.
Tongue.
Five. Five. Am I going too fast for anyone? Raise your hand if you think I'm going too fast. Going too fast? Because you
No.
already know all this stuff. The five senses of perception. What are the five senses of action?
And speech, generative organ of diffraction.
I can't hear you, Kalyan, if you're saying something.
No, it's Manoj, I think.
What happened? Bolo. What? Simple. Hands. What are you going to do action with? Hands. Legs. What else do you do action with? Which is the worst
Speech.
action we all perform all the time? Speech. We talk. So hands, legs, speech. What else? Genital organ and correct. Organs of reproduction, organs of excretion. Correct. So five organs of action. Five organs through which we act. Five organs through which we perceive. So far, he hasn't told us anything we don't know. The one means what is it that makes a conglomeration of all these actions and perceptions is your mind. One. And the five objects of the senses. You know the five objects of the senses: color and form for the eyes, sound for the ears, smell for the nose, taste for the tongue, and touch for the skin. Five objects. This is the Bhagavad Gita. Does he need to tell you this? If you have come to study the Bhagavad Gita, it implies that you have already known all this, because it doesn't want to tell you all this. It will not start with kg all over again. You have a body, a mind, an intellect. A body is made of this, a mind. Start with. And yet he's telling you the Kshetra is that. So now when you hear the whole kg class again, you have to understand that he's saying something else. You know what he's trying to tell you? He told you already that it is the same Kshetragnya in all Kshetras. It is the same self in every field. Now he's telling you that all our fields are the same too. We believe we are all unique, we are all individuals, we are all so different. That's not incorrect, but it's not completely correct either. Philosophically, it's the same thing. Just as you can tell the difference between a Maruti, Ciaz, a Rolls Royce, something. You can tell the difference. But fundamentally, it's the same thing, isn't it? The same four wheels, the same car, the same, there's an engine there, there's a steering wheel there are cars there. So philosophical education, the whole aspect of philosophical education takes it away from particulars into generalities. Okay? So when we look at another person or we look at ourselves, we become very objective to. Okay, like this body will feel temperature in a particular way, for instance. Right? Sometimes I'm a kind of person who feels very cold, or this body is the type of body that feels very warm. I know some people, you know, in London, they put on the air conditioner or the fans. Some people in India put on heaters. So different types of things, different bodies experience temperature, but what is common is that your sense of touch will experience that temperature. And you bring things down eventually to their fundamental basics. Everyone in this class has a body, mind, and intellect. Everyone in this class has their senses reacting to sense objects. Everyone has an ego. When you understand this, you stop making such a big deal of it. Oh, I'm so egoistical. What do you mean you're so egoistical? Because you are egoistical. If you weren't, you couldn't be egoistical. Don't make a big deal of everything about yourself. It's no big deal. It is the same common humanity. And if you can get that, you will realize that the Kshetra is not just this humanity. Every being, isn't it? Everybody has the same basic human, and you begin a certain kind of universality, in which case you stop making yourself the center of existence. Like, oh, I am very good looking. Okay, there are many good looking people in this world. Oh, I'm so terrible looking. Okay, there are many terrible looking people in this world. I'm so fat. Half the world must be of your weight. So what's the big deal? And so in the Bhagavad Gita, you study the exact same thing. You have to see it in a different way. And now from there, you will study further. This is so clear, right? It's almost like, why did you even bother putting this verse? Until you see the sequence of thought. Why are you putting this? Nobody will have come to the Bhagavad Gita without knowing this thing. Nobody. Not in today's world. So imagine in that world, he's telling Arjuna. Arjuna must have learned this in KG. It's like going to a class on post-graduation literature and they start with ABC. We are here because we know that. So you will see now how it progresses. Once you understood his conceptually what is going on. Conceptually is clear, right? Every one of us is made up of the self and the Kshetra. The Kshetra in all of us is the Kshetrajna. The self is the same in all of us. And our basic equipments are also the same in all of us. The difference in us is just a matter of detail, sometimes unnecessary detail. The color of my skin is pink and yours is blue. So what? The same skin and it does the same job. It begins for everybody as nice, tight, beautiful skin and ends up as loose, wrinkled skin. This is true for all of us. You'll come to this later on in the chapter. He says, who is an intellectual? He's able to see this. Janma, Mrityu, Vyadhi, Jara, birth, death, disease, old age. It is all very important because it's happening to me, but this is the same thing happening to everybody. Get it? Right? If I fall in love with somebody, I say, oh, this person doesn't love me, doesn't love me. Do you know every generation went through this before you, and every generation after you will go through this? Relax. It is a normal course of life. But when we are in it at that time, it's all so important. Imagine a lady sees her first gray hair. All hell breaks loose in her life. You're not the first person in this world with gray hair. And you're certainly not the last, unless, of course, there's a nuclear explosion and we are all dead. Many other women and men in this world are going to have exactly the same thing. So once you begin to get that, okay, this is clear, right? As far as the body, as far as the ego, as far as the 10 senses, the objects of the senses, same, no, for all of us. So now let's go to verse 7. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. Oh, Deepraj, yeah. This class is very divided on whether there should be questions or there should not be questions. Some people say the USP of this class is there are questions. Some people say the botheration of this class is there are questions. You people decide and let me know what you want. Deepraj, why is the mind referred to as one? The mind is referred to as one because it is the single single, what shall I say, like Reserve Bank is one, because it's a single depository of all things. Everything, every single paisa will go there, and then it will go anywhere else. So same thing happens in your mind. Every single perception you have will go to your mind. If it doesn't go to your mind, you don't get a perception. And from there, it will generate every action. It's the one superhighway or the one junction, like how the trains have the junction. Every train has to go there and then go somewhere else. So it's that one junction. So it's called one sometimes in the scriptures, because every perception has to go from there and every action technically has to come from there. I'm saying technically because everyone will say, but you can function from your intellect. No, you cannot function from your intellect. Your intellect has to command the mind will command the body. So when we say you can choose between functioning on the mind or functioning on the intellect, basically it means who's given the command. But the mind has to do the job. Okay. So it's called one because it's the single repository of all things. Okay, all right. Anything else? Shall we go to verse 7? Ichha dvesha sukham dukham sanghataschetana dhrutihi etat kshetram samasena savikaram mudahrutam. Ichha dvesha sukham dukham sanghataschetana dhrutihi etat kshetram samasena savikaram mudahrutam. He's continuing it. This is just the continuation of the previous verse. Ichha dvesha sukham dukham sanghataschetana dhrutihi. He's continuing what is the kshetra. He started, right? He told us about a little more external things. Now he's telling us a little more about internal things. Ichha, desire. Dvesha, dislike. Sukham, dukkham. Sanghatas, sangaha. Sanghata. Sanghata means sangha, all together. Chetana, dhrutihi. 7 more modifications at a little subtler level. Ichha, desire. Dvesha, dislike. When the ichha is interrupted, what you get is dvesha. In other words, if you want it to be cold but it is hot, then the heat is dvesha. Ichha is cold and the heat will become dvesha. Now, if ichha is fulfilled, it is sukham. But if dvesha takes place, it will become dukkham. Sanghata. Sanghata means the collection, the assemblage. That means the body. Because all of this takes place in you, this relationship with the world, only because you possess a body. Not possess a body, you can't contact the world at all. On a related or on an unrelated note, people keep claiming they see ghosts. You cannot see a ghost, and the ghost cannot see you, because you need a physical body to interact with this world. If you do not have a physical body and you interact with the world, it is called
Hallucination.
okay.
Illusion.
Anything else?
Illusion.
Okay. When you're interacting with the world without a physical body, it is called
Ghost.
Dreaming. Dream
what?
state.
Dream state, of course. Isn't it? When is the time you interact with the world without this physical body? In your dream. You have a world, you have a physical body of some nature, and they will interact because they are on one platform. Right? So if you want to interact with this world, you are going to need a physical body. That is why you get it. If you don't get it, you cannot arrive in this world. So assemblage means this collection is all related to this body because you're only able to interact with this world as long as you have this body. Chetana. Chetana means intelligence. It is a to retain information, to store information, to bring back information, to understand information. All that is your Chetana. And Dhruti. Dhruti here is firmness or consistency. Now you say, why is Dhruti put here? Dhruti is put here because it is the one thing in this world that can convert your Ichha into Sukham. You can have all the Ichhas in the world, but they may not lead to Sukham unless you have Dhruti. Dhruti is the one quality. Am I interesting, right? If he wants to put one quality here, which one will he put? He put Dhruti. Because Dhruti will determine whether it's Ichha Dvesha or Sukham Dukham. That is the differentiating thing. What is the... How can we interpret the predictive dreams? Kalpana? Where are you, Kalpana? Kalpana Raja, okay. Yes, if you put on your video, it's easier for me to talk to you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm here.
All right. So, Kalpana, can we how do we interpret predictive dreams? That I'm assuming by that you mean you dreamt that something will happen. You or anybody dreamt that something will happen, and that thing did happen. That's what you mean, right? How do we interpret them? We simply ignore them because of the law of probability. Just if you step back and think that, let's say a person sleeps 8 hours a day. When he sleeps 8 hours a day, he goes through sleep cycles. You know that, right? He goes to light sleep and then REM sleep, then he goes to deep sleep, then he comes back to REM, then he goes to light, then he comes back to REM. I'm just simplifying this process, but this is the cycle that goes on all night. Okay, in the REM, which is rapid eye movements, in that state, you dream. Dream means you really dream. In light sleep also you can dream, but that dream is sort of, you know, something else. You are still halfway awake. But the REM, you go to those dreams which you think are really true. Right? You go through this every night, maybe 3-4 cycles. In each cycle, you may see multiple happenings, multiple dreams. In your life, therefore, of let us say 100 years, now I've lost the calculation, 100 years, that means 365 days into 100 into 4 is how many minimum dreams you had. Now, Deepraj, you can tell us what number are we talking about?
Actually, somebody did the calculation. So it's 700,000 dreams in a lifetime.
700,000 dreams in a lifetime, of which you remember, I don't know, 100 maybe? I don't know how many, random figure. So even if you don't remember, okay, let us say 700,000 dreams you go through. Of that, 1 dream, 2 dreams, 5 dreams came out correct. That means 700,000 minus 10 dreams How much is that, Deepraj? 6,000, 600,000. I don't know how to say these numbers also. Some horrible number of dreams were wrong. They didn't come out correct. Do these 10 dreams even count? Therefore, ignore them. It has no significance. A dream occurs because you have an undigested thought. Suppose you have a relation in a hospital and you're worried that person may pass away. So you may get up in the middle of the night dreaming that they passed away. If the person actually passes away, you will go and tell everybody, oh, I had a dream that he passed away. If the person doesn't pass away, you will simply forget that dream. So therefore, none of these things really count. Just ignore them. Terrible answer, Kalpina?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's not.
terrible.
A very good answer.
Yes, very few people will accept that answer, but well, it is what it is. Most people will reject it and not be happy with this at all. Because they'll say, no, kuch to hoga hi. Never mind, you heard the other side, now you decide whichever one you want to keep. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much, Kiti.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing an answer and leaving it at that.
Okay.
Deepraj. Is firmness different from Shraddha? Yes, Dhruti is different from Shraddha. Dhruti is consistency. Shraddha has two additional factors. One factor is the factor of faith. In fact, in most of the vernacular languages, Shraddha has come to mean faith. Like in Hindi and all, say, mujhe us Bhagwan pe Shraddha hai, or something like that, then you meaning faith. In Sanskrit, it of course means faith. It includes Dhruti, and it means, and the third factor is the continuance of the Dhruti until the goal is reached. For instance, Deepraj, if you claim that you have had firmness or consistency in attending class, then we will all agree with you because we have seen you in most of the classes ever since you have started joining. Ever since you have joined, you have been fairly consistent in the classes and you have attended. So we will say, yes, Deepraj has Dhruti. We can also say Deepraj has faith because Deepraj has come to the class, applied himself to it. He believes in this subject. But does Deepraj have Shraddha? Will be determined not by just these two factors, but whether you will stick with it till the end of the journey. Okay? Then, Ravi Chabra, could you please explain the concept of Swadharma? Swadharma is not there over here currently, Ravi. I know this is a continuation from yesterday, but okay, just very briefly, but I won't take any further question on it because I'm happy to go off anywhere and answer any question, but then everybody comes and gives me one big lecture afterwards. So I will just answer it since you are asking, what is Swadharma? The sum total of your vasanas, of your manifested vasanas, is your Swadharma. Why we need to say manifested vasanas? Because you have many vasanas in your set which will not manifest to you in this janma. This janma's manifested vasana is your Swadharma. Okay? I mean, as definition.
I asked this question. I asked this question because yesterday I had put up one
Yes, I'm aware.
of its station where your Swadharma is, let's say, following humanity, and because of responsibilities, because of the money involved which you need to run your house, you are now going for other profession like medical and engineering. So in such a case, what is to be done? I know if you follow Swadharma, you may not be happy about it. So this question I had asked yesterday, but I was not very clear about the answer. That's why I repeated. Thank you.
Okay, so next time any general questions you ask before class, because now we are following the line, right? Otherwise, we'll lose the train of thought. So this is a definition. Next time before class, you ask the question, we can discuss more on Swadharma. Oh, no problem. Um, now, remember where we were. He said that I will tell you what is Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. O Bharata, Kshetrajnam mam vidhi, know me to be the Kshetrajna. Sarva kshetreshu bharata, in all the kshetras. So he is common to all kshetras. Right? That we've understood, self is common in all. Now, what are the kshetras? Kshetras are all different, individual difference. Deep Raj is different from Bhavna, who's different from Komal, who's different from Malti. Different. The big question is it really different? All of us have a body, all of us have an ego, all of us have the mind, all of us have the senses, all our senses interact with the world. What is the world? All the sense objects. Right? So you brought this, what seems so different, into understanding how it is really all the same. There is a very famous play by Shakespeare called The Merchant of Venice. And in The Merchant of Venice, they revile the Jew, Sherlock. And Sherlock says, you have all reviled us. You know, many people revile the Jew in the Western world. The Holocaust and all were all consequences of this belief. And so when people talk like that, Shylock's character in the play says, why are you reviling us? Are we not humans like you? When we are cut, do we not bleed? It's a very, I read this sentence in school. We had to do Merchant of Venice. I've forgotten all other sentences, except, of course, the mercy one. But remember this. When you cut us, do we not bleed? Are we really all so different from one another? If you fulfill my desire, will I not be happy? Who will not be happy? If you do not fulfill my desire, will I not have dvesh? Who will not have dukkham? Begin to see the universality in spite of the differences. In fact, the differences don't really count that much as the fact that we are the same. We are the same in the absolute sense. We are also same in the philosophical sense of just the same things for every one of us humans. Every one of our humans, all of us, want our loved ones to do what we want, what we say. And our loved ones are also the same humans who want their loved ones to do what they say. And that's where all the problem of relationships come. Everybody says, let's do it my way. But when they say, let's do it my way, at least we must be able to see this is the same for all of us. We won't say he wants it his way. We all want it our way. Who doesn't? So, desire. When I have a desire in my heart, do I not recognize the desires in other people's hearts? Desire, hatred, pleasure, pain, assemblage, intelligence, firmness. This is the Kshetra. This is the Kshetra. This is what we all are, all of us. This is briefly described with its modifications. Modifications because if he wanted to just tell you Kshetra, he could simply say body, mind, intellect. But he didn't say that. He gave some modifications. Otherwise, you'll say, no, mind. Then you're saying dukkha, sukha, that is mind itself. Ichha, Dvesha, that is mind itself, modifications. So this is your Kshetra along with its modifications, briefly described, because he hasn't started writing a treatise on the Kshetra. He's just showing us how the similarity exists across the board. Samasena, very briefly, because his point is not to tell us this, his point is to tell us something else. So Samasena, in brief, this is what it is. Komal, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Namaste. As you were saying regarding the relationship, everybody has got a desire, the other person also. Why not we recognize that? Then suppose on one point, both have a different desire, and then how to assimilate it and whose desires to be taken care of?
Negotiation.
Everybody's own desire. Like on one
No.
point only, somebody is saying we want to go, somebody is saying I don't want to go. Then who is to listen to so that you have a cordial relationship?
It's called negotiation.
अच्छा थोड़ा उसका
Yeah, otherwise, you see, Bernard Shaw described marriage as the husband wanting to go north, the wife wanting to go south, and they both going east, though they both hate the east wind.
Then
East wind is the worst type of, right? Nobody's going to be happy at the end of this. So that's called negotiation. So negotiation is the art of living with other people. Everybody has a desire. So first step is everybody has a desire. Step number one. You would not be a human being if you did not have those desires. So step number one, you have a desire, I have a desire. My attitude is, my desires are justified, but yours are not. And that is everybody's attitude. Who are the successful people in the world? The unselfish people. Who are the unselfish people? Who take cognizance of the fact that other person has a desire too. They take cognizance of this. The more and more you take cognizance of it, the more and more you will find it easier to deal with people. You have to understand this. Nobody here is going to get his way 100% of the time. So you have to know which is the way you're going to push your way and which is the way you're going to let the other person have his way.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, once, I think my husband and I have managed to do this negotiation bit pretty well. So one day we were at my brother's house and I like hanging out at my brother's house, and for my husband, it's in-laws, so he's not interested in hanging out over there. And so he told me, okay, now let's go. I said, so my brother said, no, stay, why are you going? So I asked my husband, what time do you want to go? He said, 4. So I said 5. He said 4:30. I said done. So my brother said, oh, this is very good. But then eventually we stayed till 5. But anyway, the thing is, why don't you say whatever you want, say it.
Right.
And listen to what the other one wants.
And then middle
And
path.
not my way is right and your way is wrong.
No, that won't work.
Everything is like that. Recently, we went to negotiation for the land. I didn't do any negotiation because I can only negotiate with my husband, Baba, nobody else. Not with the sabzi wala also, I can't do. If he says, 50 rupees ka tomato, I'd rather give him 50 rupees than get into a discussion about this thing. So I can't do all that. So our team of negotiators and their team of negotiators sat down to negotiate the price of the land. And very, very interesting how they were going about this whole thing. One was a seasoned negotiator. So he was managing his affairs very well. The others are not so seasoned, but he was very good. So he was doing his thing. And very interesting how he would say, he would say, नहीं, हमको ये नहीं चलेगा, ये इतना ही होना चाहिए, और उसके बारे में सोचो मत, वो, because some part is forest land, some part is agricultural land, a big chaotic thing what we are doing. And then he's saying, उसके बारे में नहीं बोलना है अभी चलो जल्दी करो. The way he was
professional
doing this whole thing.
He knows that works.
Yeah, he knows how to do. And those people were saying, then he's telling them, देखो आप लोग हमारे सामने डिस्कस नहीं कर सकते ना, आप उस रूम में जाओ और सोच के आ जाओ वापस क्या है. Then those guys went off for half an hour. They didn't come back in there. They are only negotiating among themselves. Some were agreeing to what we were saying. Some were not agreeing to what we were saying. It was a very interesting thing just watching this whole drama. But
Probably
why does
actually,
a good negotiator win? Because he's able to spot what it is you want. What is it the vendor wants? He wants his money fast. This is what the vendor wants. What is it we want? We want the money to be reduced. And we want to give it after also some time. This is what we want. Right? Now we have to figure out who wants what and try to find a situation where everybody has got largely whatever they want. Largely, everybody cannot always get whatever they want. And that's the whole skill of negotiation. But you will do it instinctively if you understood that just like I have desires, the other person has desires. Either you understand it that way or you understand it as unselfishness, which is, let me be sensitive to what you want. It works to the same
Either
thing.
you work for the other person or you negotiate. Not only for thinking about yourself will not work. That will
Both,
spoil
yeah,
the
both are the same. They are not two different things. You cannot not think of yourself. You have a primary responsibility of
otherwise, you will
contributing to your
also not
desires.
be satisfied.
You will, yeah.
You'll not
Then
be
you will
happy.
fight with your husband later on that तेरे लिए मैंने ये सब कर दिया, you are treating me like this, मैंने क्या क्या sacrifice किया. He doesn't want to hear that for the rest of his life, which is what most women do. They will do something unnecessary. Then they will make their husband feel guilty for the rest of his life. Then nobody likes to feel guilty, so he will give it back at some point in some way. What is all this madness going on?
Yeah, either you forget it, do it and forget it. Otherwise,
It's not either you do it and forget it. It is, am I capable of forgetting it? Otherwise, I will not do it.
right. Yeah,
It's not I'm forcing anything on myself because, okay, Ravi, you can listen now. This personality is of a certain mold and a certain type. It's capable of something, it's not capable of something. If you forcefully make it do something it is not capable of, it will balk at some time or the other. You're creating a pressure cooker situation for your own self. That's why follow your personality. Follow it. You cannot expect the fan just because you want heat. You say, oh, fan, give heat. It won't do it. So negotiation means being able to see the needs of both parties on the same plane. It doesn't mean rejecting anyone's needs. We're giving equal importance to everybody's needs.
yeah. Very clear. Actually, yesterday I was taking a class on relationship in the parenting session, which I take. So there the 5 love languages, like we should speak in the language the other person wants. Then say, if I want this thing, the other person doesn't want this thing, then what to do? That same thing I said, you balance it, you understand that the other person is not of that type. So understand he is not able to speak that language. So be okay with that. But now I am a little more clarified how to say it, like negotiation and how to balance it. So thank you. I'm more clear on this now.
Yes, the whole process of life is just getting more and more clear. At no stage do we ever know anything. You get slightly more clearer. Then you get slightly more clearer. That's all we can hope to achieve.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Janki ji, good morning. Hari Om ji. I recently just heard some people are using game theory. I didn't know what game theory was. I've just heard that mathematicians are now resolving everybody's problems of the world, whether it's negotiations about war or two brothers fighting for property. Because as you say, there is a method to the madness and they're using it to arrive at a conclusion.
I am flattered by your belief that I have all knowledge on all things, but I must admit I do not. Game theory is a very old one that started, I believe, from transactional analysis. If you're referring to that, then no, game theory is solution of problems. No, I don't think that one. Okay, so sorry, I know some vague thing, but not enough for me to talk about it in class. But please, all of y'all, do not be under some wrong impression that I know everything about everything in this world. I am very restricted. I study one book. I know Vedanta treatise, or I've studied Vedanta treatise. I have studied Bhagavad Gita. Between these two books, if you have any questions, I can take those. Anything else? Ram Jani. Now, okay, so is this clear? He told us what is Kshetra. He told us what is Kshetra. Bottom line is, same bottom line of every spiritual pursuit, to see ekatvam, to see the oneness. When you see it through the mind, you see it through the mind, you don't see it through the mind, but when it's a mind-led experience, you call it love. And when it's an intellect-led experience, you call it identification. But whichever one you want to do, whether it comes to you as a feeling or it comes to you as a comprehension of the oneness, both result in the decrease of the ego. Ego is the attribution of things to yourself. The finding of yourself, very important. That is why we're always telling people, right? This happened to me, that happened to me, that happened to me. Because why do we do that? It's important to us because it has happened to me. That is the ego. So as soon as comprehension develops, this belief in my own importance, in my experiences, suppose you got late because there was a traffic jam. Then how much? You know what happened? There was a traffic jam. But if you step back and somebody else tells you this thing, there was a traffic jam, and then I got 10 minutes late. Then you say, acha, theek hai, to fir? Right? It means nothing to you that somebody else was in the traffic jam and they got 10 minutes late to go wherever they want to go. Won't be interesting to you, but it happens to you. It's terribly interesting. Enough for you to tell everybody. We'll all do that, right? Oh, and then you know what happened to me? I just couldn't find a safety pin. Now, is this news? I just couldn't find. I looked everywhere. There was no safety pin. If it happens to me, somehow it's a dramatically important event. If it happens to you, I couldn't care less. That difference is called the ego. When you understand the conceptually, Kshetra and Kshetrajna, this importance of it happened to me comes down. And that brings us to the next and maybe the most important aspect of being an intellectual, which is what are the qualities of a jnani. We'll just start this time. From next time onwards, we will take it up in more detail, of course, but we'll start this time. Amanitvam madambhetvam ahimsa shantirajamam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyam vinigraha. Amanitvam madambhetvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyam vinigraha. Yes, Kalyan. Vidushi.
Before we go to this, on the previous verses on the Kshetra, so the self enlivens it, all these elements. So I know all these examples, but every time I think about it, electricity, petrol, those analogies that consider them, and then they're enlivening the equipments. But every time I think, why would self enliven hatred, pain? That's still something which keeps bothering me. If the self is supposed to be doing the good stuff, then through equipments, why is it doing or enlivening the bad?
It is like saying that electricity is supposed to be so helpful to us, then why did it electrocute that person? Electricity is neutral. Say the petrol will stop working just because it's a robber's getaway car. petrol doesn't stop working because the man is the
Janki ji, you're frozen.
Okay, is it okay now? Are you all there?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
Yes,
Sorry about
now you're back.
Right. So where did you hear up to?
That if you go and
The petrol
touch
is
something,
neutral,
you
the
get
electricity
electrocuted.
neutral. It moves
Petrol in a
from
thief's
person-
car.
Couldn't hear, all three of you all spoke at the same time.
So the petrol won't
So I do.
stop. The petrol will continue to work even if the robbers are using it as a getaway car. It's neutral.
It's neutral. Okay, very good. So petrol is neutral. Electricity is neutral. It is not telling you, it is not instructing you how to use it. It is a power. That power is available for good purposes and for bad purposes. So that's how it is. In our minds, God is only there for good. And because we think like that, we develop another question. Since God is there only for good, God is not there because there is evil. In Western philosophy, it's called the problem of evil. If God is all good and all knowing, then why is there evil? So the atheists use this argument very often, and it stumps the theists also. But the whole problem with this argument is you're beginning on the basis that God will only do good. So is that wrong that God will only do good? Philosophically,
He will
no.
do right, not good or bad. He will do what is right. And that's what coming.
Okay, so philosophically, okay, take it like that. Philosophically, there are various ways of dealing with it. One is that, firstly, there's no such thing as good. That's one way of dealing with it. Because at what stage of these proceedings do we call it good? Kalyan, if I ask you, are you a good man?
Yes,
Will you
I
answer
am.
that question with yes or no?
Yes.
You answer it with yes. Kalyan, are you better or is Mahatma Gandhi better?
Mahatma Gandhi is better.
So who's a good man, Kalyan? You or Mahatma Gandhi?
I'm good. Mahatma Gandhi is better.
Right. Now, if you say I am good and Mahatma Gandhi is better, you have already assumed that there are gradations in goodness.
Yes.
If you accept gradations in goodness, you cannot say that any one point is good, because anybody who's not as good as you is a bad person. If I'm not as good as you, am I therefore a bad person?
Less good.
Less good. So are you the standard by which everybody will be determined who's good, or is there some exterior, another standard which will determine that? You run into all these problems. So for us, each one of us, I am good. If you're better than me, you're gooder. And if you are worse than me, then you're badder. But then am I the standard? Am I that middle point that is good? How will you define what that is? Do you
Any
think
one person may be good for somebody, bad for the other person? So there is no demarcation as such, whether you're good or bad. I can be good for a few, I can be bad for others.
right? So
Whether
what
I'm
that
good or
means
bad,
is
who will
good.
decide?
Right. So what the point is that good becomes a relative term. So when you so therefore the first point is there's no such thing as good. That's the first point. Secondly, is God for what happened here now? Is God meant to be so if you say God is for purposes of good, if you say that, if you take that stance, firstly, there's no good. Secondly, if you accept that he's for good, who are you to determine whether a certain thing is good or bad? You
Yeah,
remember
but
that
that
story?
premise, if you extending that, then there's nothing called absolute truth or the self then.
No. It's not that there is no absolute truth. It is that you don't know absolute truth. As far as you know, it's relative.
Yeah,
Philosophy
but you
tells you.
also tell us that you proceed from known to unknown.
Correct.
So I know only
So
this.
what?
So from this, I deduce that there is no absolute truth because you're saying that it can enliven
No,
anything.
but that deduction is not a valid deduction. Just because every truth I know is relative doesn't necessarily mean that truth in itself is relative. That is not a correct deduction. What I can do is I can know more and more truth, and at some stage, I cannot at the moment state whether there is absolute truth or not. That's not logical because I don't know it. So wait, so coming back to your point that God has to be for good, it leads you to a host of notions, none of which give you a stable standpoint. So you're better off philosophically understanding that God is neither good nor bad. God is the ultimate truth. Truth is not good or bad. It is what it is. Now, suppose you say no, but I have seen many scriptures that says God is good and everything that God does is for good. Then what that means is every experience that you go through, good or bad, can be a stepping stone to the ultimate truth. So these words, if you take out of context, then that creates a little bit of confusion.
Slightly clearer, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so then we will start our 20